Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about Wonderland by Andrew Kolb, a fantasy role playing setting that is 5e compatible. So, all of you who are a fan of the world's greatest role playing game, Asterisk, this is a new kind of setting from an old kind of property. You are not wrong. Wonderland is rooted in a version of Alice in Wonderland through the Looking Glass. It comes in a beautiful hardcover exterior by Andrews McNeil Publishing, and although it has a sticker price here of $35 and it came out last year, it now is available for even less than that. But I have to say, comparatively, and this is definitely like an economies of scale kind of thing, probably because of a wide reach of publishing allows companies to put things out like this for a lower per unit price. But let's see if it is a good deal even for that price. There are, you may be aware of this one from 2024. 2022, I believe, was Neverland, the Peter Pan one. And then 2020 was the Breakout Oz, which I wish I would have bought that one back then, because now those two are harder to get. Apparently, those two focus more on social stuff and discovery exploration, and this one seems to be a bit more combat focused. And just to cut the suspense here, I just want to say right off the top that this is one of the most impressive setting books that I have ever seen, truly. And usually, I'm not going to get into it because I like to keep things snappy in my videos, but usually setting books feel like a little bit of a letdown for me, like there's something missing, it could have gone further, but this one had me from start to finish absolutely amazed. Absolutely amazed. The quality of it blew me away. So, first of all, the design of it is amazing. There is just an extremely, like, usually you get one or the other. You get a very inventive layout that has really excellent ideas and design, or you get something that is artistically mind-blowing, but maybe with that you lose some efficiency, right? Think like Troika. Troika is amazing concepts there, amazing, beautiful book, but it's not necessarily making the best use of its space. A game that does do both well, I think, is Into the Odd. Into the Odd does that. I would like to see Mythic Bastion Land. We'll wait till it's not $68 anymore. But yes, this is going to take place in Wonderland. But because Wonderland is, now sort of outside of copyright and has different interpretations of it from the original Lewis Carroll, this one has various aspects of that. And one of the things I do like about Alice in Wonderland that separates it from the other two settings, Peter Pan and Wizard of Oz, which I would say, like in the American English, Brito-American transatlantic heritage. I don't know. Who wrote Frank Baum wrote Wizard of Oz. He was American, right? I mean, Frank Baum. I never heard a more American name. Well, his first name was actually L, so I don't know, maybe his name, but he was American. And I think that for American children, at least for my generation, sort of millennial Gen X, I assume it's still this way, these are three foundational stories of the American childhood. And I think, though, that Alice in Wonderland, as you get older, you begin to appreciate a psychedelic quality to it. It's quite scary. It's got some concepts that are existentially menacing. it has like a high level of symbology that remains unresolved as you get older. Like you think of other foundational children's stories, Beauty and the Beast and stuff. Even if we don't fully get what those are on the nose when we're kids, as we get older, we understand more what that means. But Alice in Wonderland, I mean, there's obviously some parts of it that are very clear in what they mean, but there's still other parts where I'm like, I don't know if you can figure this out without peyote. So it has this kind of, I would say, Monty Python cut scene graphics here, these very layered paper puppet kind of things. And it just is consistently amazing throughout the book. I mean, it is truly special. It is truly special. And in addition to that design, though, there are things in here that it's a good mixture of very, very accessible, very well explained modularity when it comes to, for instance, how to create different rooms and levels, while at the same time taking chances, trying different things, coming up with clever ways of resolving things. And of course, because it's a setting, you can take or leave some of these things. So let me just name some right off the bat. First of all, what I really like is that you start in Dinah, like Dinah Shore, Dinah, this small town. And then throughout play, you intermittently, when cued, sort of grow the town. And there are 4 stages of growth in 5 areas: locals, newcomers, existing businesses, new businesses, accommodations. And the city keeps growing, eventually gets too big. And I like that this idea that there is this place in the setting that is living even when you're not looking directly at it. The setting is also quite interesting in that there is the looking glass, right? There is Wonderland, and then there's also there's Wonderland, and then there's the world above, and then there's Pandemonium. So that's the plane of dreams. And then there's Looking Glass Land, only through mirrors. So all of these have sort of different game boards. And that comes into into actual usage throughout this, because one of the ways that you can interact with, or I should say, crawl in one of the 3, yes, there are 3 different ways of dungeon crawling in this game, is through chessboard movement. And in the back here, it actually provides this fold out 2 different chessboards that you could use, and it's actually perforated, so you could pull this out and have these quadrants of chessboards. And I just want to say, I mean, I definitely suggest that you support your local game store, but if you're not in an area that has that, in the US, I was able to get this on Amazon for $19 right now. So pretty good. But yeah, just in the back here, we see this, and then D100 Rumors, the back cover fully used with map layouts. The way they do map layouts is awesome. D100 Rumors, D100 Loot, a bunch of different names. The quick reference guide is it's like a GM screen all its own. And then, of course, some 5e type player sheet, example player sheets. And it uses playing cards. Its D12s are built on playing card draws, and its D4s can be determined through suits. You can use a combination of a D20 and a deck of playing cards, which obviously in Alice in Wonderland, that's a big part of the body politic, right? And then there's it's a dungeon crawl. A big part of the game is loot and finding treasure, and so it uses this diamond system, which really cool in that for every 1 point for each strength bonus, you get a diamond wedge. So if you are the derived rating in 5e +1, +2, +3, +3 would be 1, 2, 3 diamonds. That would be how much you can carry. There also is instructions for vertical map making, which is so cool, right? Because that is one of the things that is sort of psychedelic in Alice in Wonderland or Through the Looking Glass, is that the orientation of the world changes, right? It's not just like binary, one side and another, because it is like two sides that flip, but also it kind of rotates on the z-axis as well. And I'm saying that it does that plot-wise, thematically, and you can also do this in creating the maps for each level. And I think you're really going to enjoy how it does that. And then using the chessboard for chase sequences is really cool, very clear in how it does that. A very complete cast. All right, now this is one of the manifestations of Alice here, almost Alice, very creepy. And this is pretty much a full bestiary. You have the Bandersnatch, which has different phases of attacks listed out, and a banker, birds, bishops, Bone King, checkers, caterpillar, cooks. Yeah, so NPCs and characters. And then there are these, instead of demons, there are dreamins. And there are, in addition to dreamins, major dreamins, there are also minor dreamins. A whole list of eccentricities for them, a whole list of appearances. And it is extremely thorough, more thorough than, I must say, many games. Oh my gosh, is that guy cute? Jubs. Check that out. It has a very nice and handy little like side markers thing to know where you're at. And let's talk about the land. All right. So there is the divisions in this are worth going over. Let me find that page here really quick, actually. Yeah, I shouldn't have skipped over this because this is the pay dirt right here. So when you look at this right here, the entire thing is a block. And then within that block are squares. And within those squares are rooms. And you could sort of see that if you look in the one middle square there that's highlighted, you can see how when you break it down like that, those little things turn into rooms of their own. And the divisions here allow you to develop layouts of blocks, squares, and rooms. And they fit really, really well together. And there are 52 of them, which, again, you could use a deck of playing cards. And because you always get a 2-for-1 with Alice in Wonderland, it actually turns into 104 of them because it will give you instructions on each for differences in terms of the looking glass, how that same room will be different. It'll be upside down actually or in form. All right. Now, there are 3 types of crawls listed. It says the tiered nature of Wonderland's map allows for a few ways to approach gameplay. These 3 structures, called the dungeon crawl, board crawl, and depth crawl, all lend themselves to different scenarios. The dungeon crawl is the most detailed. That's where you're going square by square, or shall I say room by room. And then the board crawl, you just go on square to square, moving around, and then you sort of abstract what is in that square. Like you don't have to drop specific rooms. And then the depth crawl is the most highly abstracted, where you just go in different blocks. And it gives the suggestion of the mustard mine on page 100 to see an example of that. Yeah. And so this is an example of if you were just going to approach something from the block level, you would think about all these different areas within it, but it wouldn't necessarily be segmented per se. Now, let's do a quick shift here to just say what a lot of people have probably been thinking right now, which is, okay, We've seen this already. Questing Beast did something on this a year ago. Is this just a review? No. I do want to talk about solo play with this. I have not cracked the code on it yet, but I do have some thoughts about it. And my initial thought is, yeah, this is probably a really good mega dungeon for solo play for a variety of reasons, okay? The first thing I want to talk about is actually this section in the back. Now, it is called the resources section. And it's kind of interesting because as the author is describing it, saying basically, yeah, these are some maps, some random tables. They're not really specific to any one area. Maybe you could use them. Maybe a GM could use them. And as a solo player, I was like, really? Right? Because here, and it must be fate, because the first area that is described is called, well, no, not the first area. The second area, the third, lucky number 3, is the Oracle interior. Now, these are not oracles. These are sort of like self-contained mini maps. So I guess this would be like a square, or no, a block. And they are more illustrated. And I think that this is, I would recommend, if you were going to take on solo play of this, to have a sort of overland travel schematic that works with kind of the Tetrising of these different blocks like this. I think this will really work well as a way to track your travel and to track the overall layout. But as you go into things, I think this is the key, because these are almost like those little cute one-page mouse ritter adventures, because they're much more prescriptive, much more vivid, and you have several of them here. And then after it, it is providing all of these little things that could happen. So this is accidents, which you could think of as traps, ceiling, chest, door, floor, adventures, general and specific, which you can think of as like quests. Observe, roll encounter at location, and note their behavior. So it's like, okay, you got that mission. Go to this location, observe this thing. For who? I don't know. What reason? I don't know. What do you get for it? I don't know. Those are the blanks that you fill in. A list of couplets and crimes. And then, oh, look at this. Look at this. This is incredible. Dreamin' names, dreamin' summoning, sigils that represent the dreamins. Level 1, 2, 3 encounters and encounters in pandemonium. Evidence, exits and entrances, fleeing, imperfections. Locations on all the levels. And by the way, the levels here, again, if you use this as sort of overland travel, is, separated by color here. And so this is level 3, and the entirety of like what is happening on each of these levels is going to change. Now, say that you kind of just wanted to do a classic mega dungeon, and you don't necessarily want to go into oh, look at this. D100 loot, this is like so incredible. Like, I don't even know if odds and ends, patterns, plot hooks, rumors, taxes. What is it worth? Year of the number 4, year of the gasser or the foozler, and then some nice sketchbooks, other stuff that you can read and look at. I think though these right here, it's one of these things that comes along and really challenges what you think about like getting your money's worth. Because again, this is a Andrews McNeil Publishing is able to sell really nice, really well-made, really big books because of economies of scale, right? I mean, they're a big company. If somebody was stitching this together like a zine in the back of their house, it's going to cost more. They don't have vertically integrated shipping and distribution and marketing. But even that aside, just in terms of like what is possible to give somebody and how often I will buy something and it will just be so limited. I don't mean to pick on something here, but let me give you an example of this. All right. This is Morngloon Keep, System Neutral Dungeon Geomorphs. And this is a really nice little dungeon thing. It is, if you get the PDF and this, it's on sale right now for a very strange price, like $9.43. And then its list price, I think, is $11.86. All right. So again, $19, but let's just look at its regular price, $35. All right. Economies of scale, we're taking all of that into account. And this is not about like what is necessarily fair. All right. But this right here is, gee willikers, there's 207 is where it stops. So it's got to be 200, let's say 225 pages. This is 17, and page 17 blank, 16 blank, 15 blank, 14 blank, 13 is a quote, which takes out the page. 12 is an ad for their other stuff. 11 is an ad for their other stuff. Page 10 is 2 tables. And otherwise, this is like pretty much, a standard dungeon crawl. And then again, Edgar Allan Poe quote. And so I am not trying to call out who did that. People have the right to charge what they want. It's very hard to determine what to charge. I know that from putting my own products up on drive-through, it just asks you how much you want to, make at a minimum, because it's like you don't get all of the money that it costs. But there's like 6 issues of that. And so my thought is, as a consumer, I think it's important sometimes to just say, well, I understand all that stuff. I understand, independent publishing. I understand that, people have to make a living and all that. But like, let's not make a mistake. You count as well. And so just, when you're trying to make a decision on what to buy, and I'm sorry to go on a little diatribe here, it just kind of hits me, is just make sure you know what sort of value you can get for your money. And this is one of those things. Now, this is pretty exceptional, but there are lots of things that if this is an A, there's lots of B minuses out there. And I just think sometimes it's important to say, hey, what am I getting for this price? What is the reason that you chose to stop at 9 pages of dungeon? Think about that. Like, printing out a cover, the binding, all of that stuff, that takes up a lot of print cost. And so if, that's all you had done, why not wait until you had all 6 of them done so that you could sell for a lower unit price? Because this is incredible. I mean, this is just, I'm eager to see what Oz and Neverland have in store, because each of these here is in and of itself like a 1-page adventure. I mean, each of these, you're looking at D4 block quirk, which can be divided by, if you do card draws, it goes by suit. D20 encounters. There are certain encounters that are specific to that area. There are certain encounters that are recurrent because, again, what is kind of special about this place is that it's alive. It's alive. There's things that are happening here, moving around, stalking about. The politics are changing. There are, as you continue to go into the game is sort of unfurling itself. And that is really, really cool. And it leads to a very, very vibrant type setting that is going to give you a lot of options. And the intro here is doing something I'm very happy to see in a setting book, which is to say, here's how you can get the most out of this. Here's some rule changes that you can use. Here's some definitive tools that you can use. But I am just so impressed with this. Like, each of these spreads here have so much. first impressions, block specific mechanics. All right. Now, how will this work in terms of solo? Will, if I were to, for instance, go to any random block. In fact, let's do that. Let's think we're a solo player right now and see at what point we'd have to start kind of tinkering with it. All right, so I was going to just do the next one, but this is like MC Escherian stairs, and I was like, okay, this might be a little bit complex to do as one that we're trying to unlock. But this one's great, fungal caves. So right here, I would read this: heavy, lingering smoke hangs over the thriving fungi throughout this damp and hazy grotto. I think from there, I would go to first impressions: damp, smoky, and covered in fungi. Harmless spores hang in the air. Smoke gets thicker, moving toward Caterpillar's red-capped toadstool, which is demarcated on the map. Block-specific mechanics: creatures shrink to very small when entering the square of Caterpillar's red-capped toadstool plateau. Again, that's A. Size doesn't revert when leaving square. Okay. So as a solo player, right, we know this drill, which is that in any sort of pre-written adventure, any sort of dungeon crawl, there is going, in order to traverse the page of description to know where we are and stuff, we are encountering situations that if we were the GM, we would have information imbalance with the players, right? We wouldn't tell the players perhaps that entering section A here would cause them to shrink. But when we have things numbered and we have things tabled, we can take it out of our players' hands. All right. This is something I really learned the value of through Pendragon, which just put out on episode 17 of that. If you're not a member, you should check that out. Have some really cool developments lately that I'm looking forward to. But what I learned from Pendragon is it's fun to choose what you do. It's also fun to see what your character does and then react to that. And so right here, I have A, B, C, D, E, all the way up to J, right? And so that is going to be, if I'm correct, 10, 11, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So what I would do right off the bat is pull out a D10 and say, okay, where are we entering? What point are we entering this at? There's several different entrances and exits. There's a nice legend here. The 2 squares is a double door. The big circle that looks like toadstool is a big giant red toadstool. There's stairs and there's 20-foot ledges. I would say pull out a card. And in fact, we can do this. I'll use my jumbos here. And wait a minute. Why did I just pull out a card? Oh, I know why I did that. So we're going to find a D10. And just use this one here. Yeah, that's fine. And let's roll. Of course, I hit the one thing that I don't know. I guess that's a 1. No, it's not a 1. That's a 10. All right. So I rolled a 10, and we'll say that I'm entering right here. The way I would do this is I'd look for the 10th one, which is J, Cocoon Alcoves. I'm not reading it, and it's nice that there's a bold title and then a non-bolded under it, because that is easier for you to not accidentally fall into the description. So I know that it's called Cocoon Alcoves. I don't know anything else under that. I'd find that on the map. It's right here. And I would say, okay, I am headed in that direction, and I will use the line of best fit to get there. All right. And then what will I encounter along the way? Well, I could go all the way here, but the line of best fit, right, would have me going across what looks like a little bit of a land bridge. We'd have to go up these stairs, and we will encounter everything on the way there. Now, I know that A here is the thing that's going to cause me to shrink, and I'm not going to unshrink right when I leave it, so I'll have to figure out a way to get back to normal size. If I was playing in a group with a GM, I wouldn't know any of that. The GM would just say, to the room next to you, you see these very large, bright red, beautiful toadstool mushrooms. And, I'll do a perception. Are they poisonous? You can't really tell from here. It looks really nice, big cavern. Okay, guys, should we go in? Yeah, let's go in. But I already know that there's, I don't think shrinking is like the end of the world, but it's going to cause some tomfoolery. And I am able to decide in advance as a solo player, do I want to do that or not, which gives me a bit of an advantage. So we don't choose. Instead, we let our player character choose and then we react. And now you can use the fate mill for that. That'd be good, except to me, this works better as like a binary decision, yes or no. And so it's right there. It says maybe. That's probably why I might say the three options for me would be yes, no, yes, but not right now. Like we can come back to it. But let's just say that we enter it. I'm now in here, and inside the room, I know that I can then look at this stuff over here and generate what is going to happen. All right. Movement, enter or exit through any side, move freely between squares within fungal caves. Red Cap Plateau A can be accessed only by way of the square to the right, unless very small. Okay, so now this is something sort of interesting here, is I was not able to enter it unless I am very small, or I'm not able. It says within fungal caves, Red Cap Plateau, which is A, can only be accessed by way of the square to the right. So is that like right there? Unless very small. The point is that that would be right there. Some inconsistency that we would either have to retcon, which I prefer not to do that. I prefer to just like make it make sense. But either way, we say, all right, what am I going to do? And then we can also do checks. So say these weren't shrinking mushrooms. They're poisonous. Maybe I do a lore check depending on what game system I'm playing. Maybe I do a knowledge, perception, and see if my player character notices that. What I like about the playing cards, though, is that certain things, and I know that this technically in like the cosmos doesn't actually matter, but just from like a gameplay psychology standpoint, I think it's pretty cool, is that I can randomize something and it could be like set in stone before I know it. So an example here is there's quirks for the whole block, quirks for a door, accidents waiting to happen, creatures, NPCs, etc. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can say at a certain time I have to pass through a door. I select one of these. Hearts. The door opens to a hallway and actually goes to page 94. And I'm in a hallway. All right. What's the quirk about this thing? I can choose one of them. Hearts. The ground is covered in salt. Okay. Now we have to come up with clever systems to do this. The way that I would probably do these kind of things is these card flips trigger when it's situationally appropriate, right? Like I'm passing through a door, or I would create like a clock. Okay. So any sort of like failed rolls, any sort of failed skill checks, whatever it might be, it advances the clock. And at a certain point, I can do accident waiting to happen. However, some of these also will say you need to pass this check or else roll for an accident. And so for that, I would choose hearts, small stalactite falls. First dust falls, then all in 5-foot area, save or 4d6 damage. Okay, obviously I have to scale that. It says I encounter a creature. Cool. Flip, jack. Reroll 2d10. So I would probably just go like this. 7. 1d6 crocodiles. Now, obviously, with solo play, we might not do 1d6. We might do 1d2. And then, I've encountered an NPC. Well, let's see. Unless it prescribes exactly who it is. 5. 1d4 cooks. And then again, because this is so comprehensive, I know that this is actually cooks. I have their names. I have descriptions of them. I have a stat block if need be. And then I would determine what is their mood? Are they hostile, etc., etc. And I just think, now, yes, there were a couple of moments there which were creating some continuity. If I was going into that mushroom cave and all of a sudden there's a hallway, but this is where Wonderland actually excels, is that would you really be surprised if Alice opened a door to what she thought was a broom closet and instead it was a hallway that terminated in a underground stalactite cave? No. So you could have fun. The context of this allows us to have fun with this kind of thing. It gives us lots to play with. Never really are we going to use something that is made for group play, made for a GM, made for 5e, that is going to be our own setting, that is going to work perfectly for solo play. And in fact, really the only thing that's going to work perfectly for solo play, a setting that's specifically for solo play, I think is called a game book. You know what I mean? Now, I think that is something that is a beautiful... well, I guess I give two challenges to those watching this. The first challenge is, let me know if you know of a solo specific setting. And also, if you don't know of one, my challenge is make one. What would that look like to make one? Speaking of challenges, please do not forget that till the end of August 2025, we are having the solo podcast challenge. The solo podcast challenge means that if you make a 15 to 30 minute podcast, it could be on YouTube. It could have video, but it should have a podcast vibe to it. You could upload it to audio. The only requirement is it must be something to do with solo play. Could be a playthrough. Could be just like an episode of a show you've wanted to make, commentary or review. And it has to be available to the public. Please do not send me like, oh, I'm too shy. I recorded this. Can you just, I'm sorry, I can't just listen to an MP3 file. So you got to put it online. The point of it is to share this, to grow the community. So I think it's good if you're recording what you play, but it's not for this contest. What do you stand to win? Well, if you win, you go shopping. First place, I think, what was it? 3 books from my shopping spree giveaway collection, which is some amazing books available. Right now, I have 62 books or games on offer for this. And so first place will get first pick. They'll choose 3. Second place, 2 picks. They'll choose second, third place, so on. And I will send them to you. Unfortunately, I will only be able to do that for those in North America, but everybody should still make a podcast, upload it. It's easy, it's fun, and you know what? If you members get 1 entry into the contest, new members get an additional entry for the month if you sign up by August 24th. And if you make one of these podcasts, you don't have to be a member to do that. You get 5 entries into the competition. And I'll tell you what, if you don't live in North America and you still want to participate, we'll make an international category. Then we'll figure out something. It's just shipping is unbelievable, but we'll figure out something and try to get you a gift certificate, $10 gift certificate, maybe, if you, it's for the love of the game, folks. So what do you think about Wonderland? Do you think it has solo play potential? Have you played it? Has anyone played Oz? They say that this one is focusing more on combat. You know, I don't know. I do know that it definitely has a very robust bestiary. Look at this. This is so cool. But I'm curious about how much that is actually going to translate into having more combat. 6 impossible things. Loot. We might as well end with some loot and a rumor, right? So let's do a D100. All right. 30. The rumor is no loot. Permission slip for removing 1d4 items in arrival closets on page 78. See, that's cool. So what can we can pull stuff out of the, well, I guess we have permission to do it, so we'd have to go do it. So we have a D12, what's in the closet, what's on the walls and shelves. All right, and give me a rumor. 60. Those terrible creatures started another fire on the stairs. Those creatures being matchmakers. Well, for me, I think this is a match made in heaven. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.